You're very welcome along to the polling station. So week after week after week after week, William Kedjanyi and I, Johnny Ward, have had the rather challenging task, it would seem, of talking about an anti-post two-horse race with not that much happening in the betting and make it interesting. But honestly, William Kedjanyi, it hasn't been very tough. And this week, we have the coronavirus, which has only afflicted the great man himself. He was sent from God, despite his strong genes, despite everything in the Trump DNA. He somehow allegedly contracted the coronavirus, and this could have been the last gasp salvation for his presidential bid, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
No, it doesn't. There was a line of thinking, basically, that because the Tory vote increased around the same time Boris Johnson got coronavirus, that actually there was a sort of sympathy polling effect, but that wasn't really the case. The vote was already surging, probably because of the implementation of lockdown, which was a universally popular policy at the time, and also because of the implementation of furlough. And the context there was very different compared to here anyway. Biden, post-Trump's coronavirus diagnosis, has either maintained or increased his lead, whether it be in national polls or whether it be in state polls. And the picture is looking very rosy for him, certainly.
Is it looking so rosy that the 1-2 available with Star Sports is actually a great bet?
I think actually you could make a really strong case for yes, it is. 1-2 in percentage terms is 66%. And you go and you look at the models which are taking into account everything possible, and they are all much stronger on his chances. 538 give Biden an 83% chance of taking the Electoral College. The Economist give him a 90% chance of taking the Electoral College. Patrick English's model from the University of Exeter gives Biden a 92% chance of taking the Electoral College. And even Decision Desk, which is the coolest on his chances, comes in at 80%. So, yeah, there's a really strong argument for saying 1-2 is a great price, and you can get it with Star, you can get plenty on. So I think we will see people come and back Biden quite strongly, particularly as we get closer and closer to polling day, with Trump still stuck at the White House.
One of the reasons this is my favorite 10-15 minutes of the week is because I get educated. William Kedjanyi educates me on such things as who is the best candidate to back or actually just follow in the vice presidential debate, which is a fascinating one because Kamala Harris is only a shade of odds on to beat Mike Pence. Kamala Harris, she does laugh a lot, maybe a little bit too much for my liking, but does Mike Pence win this on the basis that Trump is so bad, the second best Republican candidate will look good?
I think that's definitely got to be something in his favour. It was possibly in his favour 4 years ago when he actually beat Tim Kaine in the vice presidential debate. He did so by a margin of 48 to 42%, and people were a little bit surprised, but actually Pence gets pretty low expectations for these things, and he's a good debater. He used to be a radio talk show host. He's very calm and focused. He gets a nice contrast of Trump. Pence is not going to go shouting at Kamala Harris. He is not going to go constantly interrupting her. Will he hold his ground? Yeah, he'll do so strongly, but in a way I don't think that's going to offend too many people. Now, Harris is an experienced litigator, that she's come through some pretty testy presidential candidate debates for the Democrats. Also the fact that there's plenty she can focus on given the Republicans' record, but there was also a lot I think you could have focused on in 2016. And whilst Tim Kaine sort of made a very calm and reasoned argument, although he was passionate in doing so, Pence focused very well on the audience, and that's a skill he has. So this will be a tight one and a very interesting one. And we have to remember, with Joe Biden being one of the oldest nominees for a major party to be president, and Trump, of course, having coronavirus along with his advanced age, it counts. It really matters. We could be looking at the next president of the United States, if not now, in 2024 maybe.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. Now, some of the markets you have on this are quite fascinating. We actually had betting on what they'll say most and what buzzwords such as law and order, which I think is one of the greatest fallacies of all time in terms of this election. Absolute nonsense, but Trump needs something. What's going to be the most said buzzword or phrase of the lot?
I can imagine that something like... I can see something like Florida coming up quite a lot. I can see law and order coming up quite a lot. I think climate change is something that
Paris
Kamala
Accord
Harris.
is 1 to 3. Climate change
Indeed.
is 1 to 4.
Yeah. If you're looking for something a bit bigger, Daughter of Immigrants is an interesting runner, given Harris's background, which I think
Is
should be
Pence going
happening.
to play that card?
I don't think she's going to do it in a really open way, but I think in an opening or closing statement, it's entirely possible that happens. We also have stuff like This Little Girl Did, This Little Girl Became, which I think is a bigger runner than, if I remember correctly, the 10 to 1 we've got for that. And I think that some of the options priced at 11 to 8 upwards are potentially interesting. So our word bingo market, I think, should hopefully do well with the increased attention.
That Little Girl was me, 10 to 1.
I think it's a runner. I think that is a runner.
Right, finally, WK. I want to know who wins. Pence or Harris?
I'm going to go with... Do you know what, actually? We'll give this one to Pence because I think he will work the audience rather than just the facts. I think low expectations can be very helpful to him. And I think the contrast with Trump will probably work out positively for him. I don't really think you'll see a margin of victory outside the margin of error. I don't think it'll be a route one way or the other. But I'd say Pence just. I think he can surprise people.
Thank you very much, William.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for watching.
And that was the polling station. Who knows what will happen before we join you again next week.